45. Brown, 45. Hot, 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 hot.
You are listening to Any Given Sunday, Australia.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia podcast, the number one podcast in at least 3 households, 1 studio, NFL Australia head office, American Football Australia head office, the Pro Kick head office, because we have another absolute legend joining us. He's a veteran of the college system, plying his trade in the illustrious SEC for the University of Florida, number 26 for the Gators, Mr. Jeremy Crawshaw. How are you, mate?
I'm doing great, mate. Thank you for having me.
No, pleasure. Appreciate you coming on. And I just mentioned to you as we were talking, the Australian flag in the background. I love that, just having a little bit of a home while you're still away.
Yeah, got to love to represent Australia when I can.
Yeah, it's good, mate. It's good. Just to start with, a bit of an icebreaker. We spoke about it just offline, so you're not too caught off guard with it. The most famous person in your phone, mate?
I was thinking about it, and it depends on how you say famous, but I think mine probably is Cameron Johnson, who is, punter already with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He doesn't answer a whole lot, but he is in my phone nevertheless. So
you're one ahead of me. I've spoken to him quite a lot and trying to get him on the podcast. You're right. He's a hard man to get a hold of. Yeah. He keeps his cards close to his chest, especially at the moment while he's recovering from that knee.
Absolutely.
He's a legend, though. He's one of the Pro Kick legends, so we'll get him. Don't worry about that. Mm-hmm. Born and raised in Emu Plains, mate, about an hour out of Sydney, but you're a rugby league player at a young age.
Oh, yeah.
What position did you play as rugby?
I've always been a thin, wiry fella, but I was always quicker than the rest, so they kind of stuck me out on the wing and at fullback. That's really where if you could get it wide to me and you gave me the ball and some space, I could make something happen, but outside of that, I could never bring the big fellas down in the middle, so they just stuck me away and kind of just threw me the ball into space. So
good hands.
Yeah. I had some decent hands, I'll say that. But I mean, with the Penrith Panthers around the corner, that was everybody in that area played rugby, and if you didn't, what are you doing? It wasn't until later that we kind of switched to AFL, but rugby was the primary for about 10 years there. That I just loved it, lived and breathed it.
Did you do much kicking as a winger or a fullback there?
Nah, not a whole lot. I think they kept that to the coach's son. That was his job. Yeah, I just when they gave me the ball, I tried to do my best with what I had. So, yeah.
Then you just said you switched over to AFL as a teenager.
Yeah,
and really got that kicking leg into action. When did you kind of switch from that to thinking about punting?
Yeah, so rugby league, I started when I was probably about 4. And I'd been playing that right up until about 11 or 12, I think, where I kind of just was looking for something new, I guess. And I had a year or 2 off of playing that. And, one of my buddies down the street kind of said, do you want to come along to AFL with me one time? And I said, yeah, sure. Like, not real red hot on it, but like, I'll just give it a go because I haven't done anything in a couple of years. And I went out there and I actually this is a really fun game. Like I really enjoy doing this. And that was probably at the age of about 14, 15. And I was playing in the under 17s. I was playing up and nobody knew that I was actually that young. But I was keeping up with the older fellas. And I think that's kind of where I noticed that I had a bigger leg than everyone else. I couldn't control it. I was swinging for the fences and wherever the ball went, that's where it went. But, I was just swinging hard and I was like, this is great fun. So,
and did you have the coming from that rugby background, no worries tackling the big fellas then?
Yeah, I had to learn that you can't tackle below the knees. So I was just diving and wrapping up people's legs and I kept getting penalties. I was like, what's going on? Like, what? And somebody said, you're not allowed to do that. Like, okay. So there was a couple of transitional rules that I had to learn, but I've no problem putting someone on the ground. Yeah.
And then Pro Kick, how did we get involved with those guys and move from the AFL to punting being the sport?
Yeah. So as I said before, I kind of just realized I had a bigger leg than most. And as I was kind of learning to hone those skills in, I kind of was like, what do I want to, what do I want to do with this? Am I going to be able to play AFL? Like it was a bit late then, about 16. Most guys go through the development squads at a really, really young age. So I kind of knew that maybe this wasn't, for me. It was a bit late. I kind of stumbled across the Pro Kick website and I was like, this looks pretty good. Like I could probably do this. A couple of years in America wouldn't hurt anybody. Like it'd be a bit of fun. And so I bought a little composite football from like Big W or something like that. And I just went to the field and I was trying to kick spirals by myself. And so I just did that for probably a year or two before I really got a chance to have one of those assessment days with Pro Kick Australia out in Sydney. And then, yeah, the rest is history. Moved on down.
So did you come down to Melbourne?
Yes, so I was in Melbourne from January 2019 until the end 2020 when I moved over here to Florida.
I saw some photos of you guys together, and you had a pretty elite Pro Kick group. Like we've had Jameson Sheen and Joey Zima, and we want to get Tory Taylor on.
Yeah,
that's pretty high quality.
Yeah, I look back on that. And I saw some photos the other day of our Pro Kick trip and some of the boys that we had there. Some of the schools that them boys went to, like we had a really strong class that went through during my time. So I think the competition with each other was just elite. It was just big ball competition every day pretty much. So I think that was a special time to be a Pro Kick with all those boys who have moved on to bigger and better things. So,
have you found being, technically a multi-sport athlete helped with the transition over to your third technical sport?
Definitely for sure, because each sport has its own aspects of, different things that make it its own unique sport. So, I mean, AFL was a lot of like, you need game awareness because a 360 sport, you kind of need to have your head on a swivel. So that really helps kind of in the pocket when you're doing a couple of different punts for rollout and stuff. And then with rugby, it's more of a just hit it as hard as you can down the field, maybe do some little tricks, as well as just being tough when you get hit. So, I mean, each sport has its own role into what I do now, but for sure, yeah.
And then you said at the end of 2019, you got to go over and have a look, and you moved to the Florida campus over in Florida.
Yeah.
What was it that made you pick Florida, or was it purely? We've heard a lot of stories of Johnny ringing people at 2 a.m. saying, "Mate, you're going to Florida."
Yeah, it was a lot like that, to be honest. I remember there were some talks with some other schools and Jezza, let's get some film going and stuff like that. But ended up being one of those Johnny stories where he kind of pulled me to the side at the end of practice one day and he put his arm around me and he said, "Son, Florida's going to call you in 3 days. You're going to accept a scholarship and you're going to go there." I said, "Yes, sir." So, and 3-4 days later, I was on a call in the middle of the night to a coach at Florida. And then, the head coach was on the phone and said, "You ready?" And I said, "Yeah." And that's how, that came about. And I was on my way to Florida. So
one of the things that all the boys at Pro Kick always talk about is it's not just punting. Like it's, you get to go over and get an education while you're kicking, which is huge. So what have you been studying while you've been over there?
Yeah, so I have a bachelor in sociology. It's a pretty broad topic, but it kind of helps with wanting to stay within footy one day. I was going for my master's there, but the business school that I was in kind of did like a compressed deal where every 6 weeks you had new courses, and with football I was like, nah, let's cut that one off pretty quick. So just kind of been doing some certificate stuff, but I mean, I'd love to come back and set up some opportunities for some ex-football guys, kind of just transition over from footy into, regular work life. So we have a lot of those programs here already, and the people that I've been able to meet along the way that, can kind of help me in that journey. So Florida has been such a help academically as well as on the field physically.
Yeah, huge. It's always good to have yourself set up because it sounds like you're a pretty realistic guy that, there's only 32 punters
right.
in the NFL, so it's a pretty cutthroat kind of business. So having yourself set up in other ways is huge as well.
Of course.
How did you go adjusting to the life coming from here? I know that Pro Kick's set up that you're going to have lifts and you're going to have, punts and things like that, but going straight into college life with classes and film study and stuff like that as well, how did you adjust?
I was lost. If I'm completely honest, I was lost as when I first got there. So I showed up, and originally the first few weeks, there's no like actual practice or football stuff. It's kind of just lots of workouts and going to classes all the time. And I completely forgot that I had to do class until I
Mm.
showed up, and my advisor said to me, "Hey, you got class on Monday," and there was like 3 or 4 hours of class. I was like, "Oh, great!" Like I thought I was done after high school. I was happy, and now I'm stuck in classes. So I completely forgot I had to do classes. And then the culture when you get over here is just so different. Like you think America and Australia are kind of the same, and then each state in America is kind of different
Mhm.
in the culture itself. So the team was just like trying to talk to kids. They were always laughing at me because I had an accent and I was saying things funny, and I just couldn't understand them because they were saying things funny. So that was probably the biggest part. I was just trying to understand what the fellas were saying to me, and then having to repeat everything I said probably 2 or 3 times before someone understood what I said. So that was probably the biggest stuff I had to overcome moving from Australia over there. It was just like, oh, it was months. And now people always say to me, like, you sound so American when you talk. And it's like, well, if I don't sound like, they won't understand me if I don't talk like this. So now I'm kind of stuck. Everyone bullies me when I go home, and then everyone bullies me when I'm here. So like, can't win.
You're stuck in between. It's a nice
Right.
little limbo. Did you know when they were taking the piss out of you? That's the main thing.
Yeah. They're always laughing and joking with each other. And I was like, what's going on? Like, I'm being so serious right now.
Just
Yeah.
laughing
So,
and thumbs up.
yeah. Okay. Walk away.
So after you've gone over there and checked it out, you signed and you head over in 2020, which ends up being obviously the COVID year. How did
Yeah.
you find that whole experience, especially being away from home as well?
Yeah. It was a weird one, 2020. Having experienced that college life and kind of started adjusting to it. 2020 hit, and I was lucky enough that they, let me go home for those couple months. I didn't get stuck in a dorm by myself or anything like that, but just being at home and still having to do classes online, like there were times when we had team meetings, but they were at 4:30 in the morning for me,
Mm,
and I was
yeah.
still expected to be on the Zoom call. And I remember I used to just turn them on and go back to sleep, and then I'd wake up and like I'd see Urban Meyer on the Zoom call, and I was like, is that Urban? Oh, fair enough. And turn around and go back to sleep. And then a lot of the classes were pretty much the same because they were just 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. So COVID was a weird time, I think, for everyone. And I was just kind of stuck in the middle of two worlds. It was a fun time to look back on.
When did you get to head back over then?
I think I went mid July, June, July ish. There was just like no one on campus, and workouts were weird. We all had to, wear masks and social distance and stuff like that.
Yeah. Did you know much about the team before you got there? Because you've taken the spot of Tommy Townsend, who's now
Mm,
two-time Super Bowl winner.
yeah.
Did you feel any pressure and like, did you know about that?
Yeah, I knew about them, but I didn't feel any pressure. Shouldn't really compare yourself to other people too much when it comes to things like that. So I knew that there was some punting royalty that had come before me. I remember a lot of people online were hating on me because I wasn't a Townsend brother, and then I didn't have Townsend, on my back, on my jersey. So I definitely knew what I was walking into there, and there was a lot of expectation on me. But I think I didn't really look into that too much and just kind of played my own game.
Yeah, well, I think you have to, especially
Yeah,
you've won them over from what I've seen with all
yeah,
the social media and things like that. So you've done something pretty well.
yeah.
When did you get to a point where you felt like you had solidified a spot and you could not so much, or you could more worry about what you're actually doing than trying to
Yeah.
keep a spot in the team?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's probably, I'd say probably my second year actually playing. Kind of got that first year under the belt, and the second year, I know still some of the fans weren't happy with me, and they still wanted the Townsend brothers, and then it's kind of after that you get over that peak and you start hitting some good plays, and really helping the team out, pinning them deep and stuff like that. That stuff kind of starts to turn around, which is good because you never want your own fans like hating on you. You always want to be part of the team and helping out the team any way you can. So, I'm glad that by the end, they all kind of came around to me. I'm forever grateful for Gator Nation and everything that they've done for me. So I'm glad that I was able to make them proud, and hopefully continue to make them proud at the next level.
Is there another Townsend brother coming through? Did you beat one out or something? Is that?
Oh, I think the fans would hope. The fans would hope. I don't know if there is another coming. I think they can pre-order that for the next couple of years coming, but no.
It sounds like you've beaten one out, and they're like, "No,
Yeah, right.
We want him back. We don't want this fucking Aussie coming from over."
Yeah, right.
Well, another side of that is it's such a huge place. Like we're just talking. I've got a Gator Nation shirt on from over here in Australia, so being such a big place, you know, the media scrutiny can be quite huge as well. Have you felt that at all? Have they pinned you down at any point?
Yeah, for sure. Like special teams is a real easy target to have a go at. Especially when things aren't going the way they should. So if we kind of step out of line, we're a pretty easy target to cop on. So I've enjoyed a few sprays online. I've enjoyed seeing the ups and downs of the fans, but you keep your head out of it. You can't just keep playing week by week. You kind of just have to keep going, and hopefully it turns around.
I did see, and again, doing the research, going through all your Instagram and things like that. Looks like you've tried to enjoy yourself as much as you can, though. Like, is that how you've gotten through these times?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the people that I've met here are going to be some of my best mates moving forward in life. And sometimes it's all about perspective and just saying, like, where am I right now? I'm away from home on full scholarship, living a life I know many of my mates back home would kill for when they wake up 4:30 every morning, go hit the job site. So, I think it's just days like that. Like you keep perspective and you just enjoy yourself, have a laugh. I am Aussie. That's what we do. So yeah.
There was a time, which I didn't actually check. I'm pretty sure you were there when the show The Swamp Kings came out, which is all about Florida and how it used to be, Tim Tebow and things like that. Did that filter around the campus?
Yeah, for sure. That was, I think it was during COVID that all started coming out.
I remember watching it.
I sat down and watched it too, and I learned a lot about like the history of Florida as well. Like I was watching that, and there was a lot about the players, doing some stuff they probably shouldn't have been doing. And I remember watching that and going like, I've been there. I know that. And like watching that, and then people would always send me it and go like, isn't this your college? And I'm like, yeah. So, that kind of, did the rounds with everyone in my, life. And it was funny to see that. And that kind of like, set the gravity of like what I'm doing and where I, the kind of place I'm at. Like Florida is huge and has such a rich history of all this stuff that they've done. So that was an interesting time for sure. I think that's when everyone started to realize kind of what I'd gotten myself into and like how big of a thing it actually was.
Yeah, what kind of place are you at? They're
right,
underage going to pubs.
Yeah.
There was a game that going through your stats against Vanderbilt in 2021. I don't know if you remember this.
Okay.
You had a 28-yard rush.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to talk us through that? That was your only. Yeah. You've had one other where you lost 10 yards. Otherwise, you've never.
Yeah. That was a botched field goal. I know what that was. Yeah. No, I remember that. I was having a good game that game too. I may have sprayed one into the stands, just before that. But I remember running up to the special teams coach, and he was about to give the call, and he gave the fake call. And throughout that year, we'd called a fake, and we always have a check out of it. So, we may call like a run left, but we got to check to punt left if it's off, So we'd called that 4 or 5 times before in that year, and we've always checked out of it. And so that one, we walk out there and I went, here we go, we're just going to check out of it like we always do. And then I heard my personal protector start doing the cadence. And I was like, oh, all right, here we go. We're on here. Oh, we got a bit of action here. We're going. And the ball was snapped. I went, I'm doing this. I grabbed the ball and I tucked it under my arm just like I did back in like under sixes. Start running to the sideline, and I'm looking around, and everyone's making their blocks. And I cut back up the field, and I just see green grass ahead of me. And I just remembered back to my rugby days where I was like, all right, here we go. Put the burners on, and I just ran as fast as I could. Made a couple, jukes around some guys, and eventually I stepped out of bounds. But I felt so good to have the ball in my hands and actually like feel like I did something, so it was kind of just like being a little kid again with the rugby ball in my hands and just running, having fun.
Didn't attempt another one?
I had the green light that said if we were rolling out and there was space that I could take it. But the coach also said if I didn't make it, don't bother coming back to the sideline. Run to the locker room. You got your first ticket back to Australia tomorrow morning.
Ooh.
Fair enough.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I'll kick
Yeah,
it.
fair enough. Yeah, all right.
Did you ever get into training and be like, oh, geez, my shoulder's feeling pretty good today? I reckon we could pass on.
Yeah. I practiced a lot of throwing last year just in case we wanted to put in a play like that. But I think Coach Napier is a little conservative in his play calling with the special teams. He has a lot of playmakers on offense, so there's no need for us to go in there and make any special plays, unfortunately.
It's a good and a bad thing at the same time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right.
So, not surprisingly, like we said, you've won over the crowd. You've had plenty of all pro teams and second teams and Ray Guy finalists and nominations and stuff throughout your time, which is huge. How does that that recognition for you being you're the guy on the team? How's that kind of recognition sit with you?
It feels good, It feels good to get recognized, especially at such a high level. Never expecting that to come of this journey. From the kid that was just punting at the park by himself to now being, one of the best in college football last year. And it feels good for sure. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist where like I didn't really play my best last year and I knew that. So as as good as those accolades are, I still know in the back of my head there's a little nagging voice that was kind of just like you could have played better. So there's always room for improvement, but it does feel really good to get recognition nonetheless.
We'll get onto it a little bit more in a second, but being a perfectionist, you're going to have some pro days and things like that coming up. Is that going to be an issue? Like, are you going to be so much inside of your own head?
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, it's kind of like it's funny because it's like my biggest strength, but my biggest weakness at the same time, I feel like. So it's, it drives me insane to the point where I'm just like doing ball drops all day. I'm working a line drill. I'm focusing on every little detail possible. And I think that's kind of why it's pushed me to be a really good punter. But at the same time, it'll always kind of skew my mental perspective on how I'm punting. So I'm like, I played terrible, yada, yada, yada. And then my coach would be like, dude, you like averaged 49 yards. Your net was like 47. Who cares? And I was like, yeah, but I didn't. And he's like,
could have made 50. Could have made 50.
Yeah, right. And my coach is like, you're just not seeing it right. Like you had a phenomenal game and you're out here still like, oh, that could have been better. But, it blinds me from seeing that I did a good job, but it also keeps me humble in driving forward to, always be better. So
this past season, 2024, was your last in college, and you knew that obviously heading into it. How did it feel heading into the season, knowing that this was the finale? I guess.
Yeah, honestly, I think I kind of just tried to take it all in. Every game, every punt that I had was something that I treasured because this is something special. You can't ever get it back. You can't ever just go join a rec league and kind of play. So I tried to take it all in. I was honestly just excited for another opportunity to go crack at the NFL, another level to go reach for. So for me, I was kind of taking it all in, last time as a Gator, but also getting excited for what was to come, this year with the NFL draft and the prospects of moving up another level.
And this interview has been a long time coming. We've been talking for a little bit. You had, was it appendicitis?
Yeah.
And you had that taken out, and then but finished off with I want to make sure I say it right. Is it the Gasparilla Bowl?
Gasparilla.
Yeah, Gasparilla Bowl.
Yeah.
So that must have been a good way to finish off the career, though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was weird. Like you said, I got appendicitis early December, and that was pretty rough. And I think I only punted maybe once in the 2 weeks before the bowl game, and then played in the bowl game 2 weeks later. And that was weird because the day I was having the surgery, the doctors were telling me, you're not going to lift anything more than 5 kilos for the next 2 months. You're not going to swing your leg. You're not going to do nothing. And then I called my trainers at football, and they're like, you'll be back in 10 days. Don't worry about it. And I was like, what?
Well,
I was like, that's not right. And, but no, I was back, and, it was not the easiest to punt in, it still hurt pretty bad, it felt like someone was slapping or punching me in the stomach every time I punted a ball, but pushed through for the team. But it was a fun way to end, and I think it was the first and only bowl game win I have of my 5 years in college football. So
I'm presuming you weren't streaming down the sidelines getting ready to take a hit after that.
nah, my coach was like, hey, you punt that ball and you run right off, and I said, yes, sir.
No laying anyone out who's running it. Just let him go.
Yeah. Business decision.
Looking back, like you said, 5 years in college. We started with COVID, then a couple of dominant years, and then a down year by your standards apparently, and then finished off really strong. Is there anything that really stands out for you over that time?
I'd probably say it's just the people that I've been able to meet and the experiences that I've had, at Florida. It's such a special place, and the opportunity to come and play here is such a special opportunity. I think for me that the whole experience was the most important to me, and I'm so grateful for what I've been able to achieve and do over here. So
yeah, mate, it's pretty, like you said, it's pretty special to sit back at some point and be like, shit, it's been a pretty wild 5 years.
Right.
And I don't, which I'm happy to be. I'm not getting up at 4:30 in the morning and going and getting on the tools either.
Right.
So,
Right.
Huge by you, mate, which we love. You've recently nominated for the draft.
Yep.
So congratulations on that. That's huge.
Appreciate that.
You're the first person that we've had on in this little phase, finishing your career and going to the draft. But how do you actually nominate for the draft? Is it just a bit of paper, or how does it actually work?
Yeah, pretty much. It's you let your coaches know. I'm pretty sure there's something you need to sign that just says like you're done with your eligibility in NCAA. And for me, I've already played my full 5 years. That's my time clock done. But yeah, pretty much just let everyone know, like, yeah, this is for sure my last year. And
when did you have to nominate, or is it at the end of the season?
It's at the end of the season.
I think like a 2-month tour of you just hold wave for every crowd.
Yeah, right. No, there's like a deadline that everyone needs to meet, I think by February, that you need to let them know. But I was already pretty like, hey, this is my last season done, so. And
then what do we go from here? So you're living off campus. You've still got some classes to go, but we still go out and punt. Are you still part of the team? Like, how does it all work from here?
Yeah, it's a bit weird because I spent my full 5 years here. Everyone in the building is kind of just like, look, you've done your time. You did good by us. We'll do good by you. You've still got your fingerprint on all the stuff, so you can get in. You can use the facilities. I work out at football 4 times a week. I got Joshy Growden, who was a ex-LSU and West Virginia punter who's designed a off-season program for me that Matty Hayball did as well during his draft preparation. But, I'm working out with that regime and using the training room facilities to make sure I'm still fresh and ready to punt. And then I got a fully lined AstroTurfed band field, full 100 yards, all the markings all over it. So I just go and punt out there when I need to. So I punt probably about 4 times a week, 3-4 times a week. So, got to keep in a routine, make sure that we're top of our game when things come. We got the Senior Bowl next Sunday on Australia Day that I head out to them. So that'll be our first chance to get with NFL coaches and kind of show them what I got. So looking forward to it.
You've dropped a couple of names there, which is huge, and you said Cam Johnson earlier on. Have you been able to reach out to those kind of guys that have been through this and just, get some advice or anything they can pass on?
Yeah. So actually me and Tory Taylor have the same agent. So I've been in talks with Tory throughout the season, kind of just ask him how things are and what it looks like and stuff like that. So it's good to have those people who, we went through Pro Kick together and those people that have already kind of gone ahead of you. Great to ask questions and find out what's to come and how to go best about it.
Yeah, that's huge. What do we look like from here now? So you've got training. Have you been speaking to teams and things like that?
Yeah, I don't. Team talks kind of come later on. I think more towards the draft. The Senior Bowl, I'm going to have meetings with the scouts and NFL special teams coordinators and stuff like that each day that I'm there for the week. And if we get a combine invite, then we'll have more interviews and talks with teams then. But I think that kind of comes later on towards the draft, when you have more the individual private workouts where they fly out and they watch you punt and ask you to do special things, that they would do to their team. So that's coming. We're just looking forward to right now.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be huge.
Yeah.
What kind of, do you have any expectations on yourself? Like I know you, like I said before, you're pretty level-headed and understand that punting, a punter to be picked up, like Tory Taylor being picked up last year is incredible. Like,
huge.
Do you have any expectations? Are you going to be watching the draft, or?
I might probably, later on in the draft when it's more realistic that a punter will be taken. I hope to go in the draft. And for myself, the expectation is fully there that we will get drafted, and that's that's what we're going to be striving for this whole off season. But wherever we go will be a blessing in itself. So,
yeah. Either way, knowing the system the way we know it now it's not over. Even if you don't get drafted, you get to go and get to go and pick where you want to go after that, and it doesn't stop after there, which would be exactly. So, just watching it. Whereabouts would you watch it? Is it a draft party or something you go to, or how would that work?
Probably set one up just at the house, have the boys over for some drinks or something like that, and just have a chill time, because it probably could be a little stressful if you're just sitting staring at the screen for every selection to go by and waiting for your phone to ring. So have it. The work's been done. Maybe have a little day for yourself, enjoy it, and
wrap up these 5 years.
Yeah, right.
I've got a couple more questions for you, mate, but just to lighten everything down a little bit. But I can't thank you enough. You've got a punt session after this, so you've squeezed this in. Like I said, it's been a few months trying to get this going, so mate, I can't thank you enough for giving up your time and coming on and having a chat. I don't know where I saw this or where I read this, but I'm a helicopter man myself, and I read that you're a bit of an aviation man. Is that it in the future at any point?
I would love it. That was one of my original loves was aviation. My grandfather was a plane architect engineer. He kind of designed a few planes. So I kind of grew up around balsa wood models around my grandparents' house, and that's kind of where the love started, and moved into fast jets and helicopters and stuff like that. So I mean, if the NFL isn't something for us, then I'd love to come back and join the Air Force, the RAF, and see what that has for me.
Like I said, I'm a helicopter man. You're talking jets and stuff, aren't you?
I'd go anyway just to fly. I love it. I had a buddy that has his pilot's license, and he took me up and let me fly his little Cessna around for about an hour or two, and I think that was just the greatest thing ever. But I've been in some simulators, just knowing people and getting my way into places, and I've been able to, use some simulators and stuff, and I think it's just the greatest. Helicopter or plane, I'm all for it.
Knowing people and getting into the places is pretty much that whole Swamp Kings show.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
You just slid straight in there. You know what you're doing. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And last one, mate, just for anyone who, we get a lot of young blokes that watch this and want to do the same kind of thing. So whether it's punting or tight end or whatever, do you have any advice for those kids that are looking for this kind of pathway going forward?
Yeah, of course. It was a dream of mine, and I kind of just reached out and it kind of all fell into place. But it really takes that first step of, if you want to do it, you got to reach out and you got to start to make it happen. Johnny and Chap are easily, in contact. Reach out, make it happen, go for a kick. It's all a bit of fun, It's something you won't regret. So might as well just give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But if it does, it'll change your life.
Yep, absolutely. Mate, good luck for it. It's going to be a huge, 2 or 3 months for you. So we'll be all over it. And shit, if the Packers need a punter, I'd be more than happy to have you up there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you for having me on.
Nah, anytime, mate, anytime.